Welcome to our 5 on 5. I'm pleased to be joined today by Tom Gessel, the president and CEO of Asante. Tom, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me.
So you've been on the job a couple of months now. What's been the biggest learning curve for you in your first position at Asante?
Oh, the biggest learning curve by far is getting to meet the people. In the community, connected to Asante, all of our employees and physicians, I've got a long ways to go to meet as many folks as I can. But that's been the biggest learning curve. I find that to be true no matter what role that I'm in, is getting to know the people, form the relationships that are all critical in providing healthcare. But so far, so good. The people I've met have been fantastic, obviously very committed to our mission at Asante, and I look forward to having more engagements to meet more of the community.
You don't get to be a president or CEO of any organization like Asante without a pretty lengthy background in healthcare. Can you share with us kind of how you got here in healthcare?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll give you the short version. Over 30 years in healthcare. I've always worked in hospitals. I've always worked for organizations that had more than one hospital, like Asante. I grew up in Ohio, so I started my career in Columbus and worked for a large organization there, always in not-for-profit, charitable healthcare organizations. Worked in D.C. area for a while where I met my wife. We kind of started moving our way west at that point. Spent time in the South and then in the Midwest. The last 11 years I've been in Colorado and worked for an organization there all across Colorado and western Kansas, which was fantastic. Colorado is a great place to live, but we've found a really nice transition and a place to be here in Southern Oregon.
So what drew you to Asante in particular?
I'll tell you, it's important to me, and I think important to a lot of our healthcare givers, to work for an organization they're proud of, that provides great care, that serves the community. It's hard to think about healthcare in Southern Oregon without thinking about Asante. You know, on any given day, 3 out of 4 patients seeking care are seeking it at Asante. And so we represent a significant, not just organization in the community, a large employer, but also the predominant healthcare organization in the Valley. And I think with that comes a lot of responsibility. So I think the reputation of the organization, how people talked about Asante when I interviewed here over the summer, and certainly the community dynamic has been very important to my wife and I as well.
Talking about the last 4 years in healthcare, obviously with COVID, it's been very challenging. Traveling nurses are very common in healthcare. What is Asante doing to try and hire more in-house nurses?
It's very true. Traveling nurses became a really huge thing across the industry as a result of the pandemic. And I think nurses found the opportunity to work in other parts of the country and with pay associated with that. I think in today's environment, and I wouldn't say we're in a complete post-pandemic world, but certainly the pandemic and the ravages of that are somewhat in the rearview mirror. We're seeing more nurses interested in full-time employment. Just in the last year, we've had a net gain of about 127 new nurses on our payroll that perhaps before were looking at traveling opportunities or working in other parts of the country. So we've had good luck over the last 12 months. I think as the pandemic has subsided and traveling nurses have tried to find a home with permanent employment, we've had the advantage of finding the 127 net new nurses that we've added to our payroll. But we need more. We're constantly recruiting nurses. We still have travelers that work in this community. And although it's fewer than it was a year ago, I think it's still a challenge for us. And so I think it's the same things as any employer. First of all, offering a great place to work, having a chance for people to express themselves in their profession at the highest level they can, being around and surrounded by great people. Make sure our pay is competitive, our benefits are competitive, just like any other employer. So we're constantly watching the market. We're constantly looking at our employee surveys to make sure we're attending to those things our employees are telling us make for a great work environment. And I think it's those things that have allowed us to have some success over the last year of recruiting more people to Asante.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll have much more with Tom in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with Tom Gessel, the president and CEO of Asante. Tom, you were talking before our break about nurses and looking to hire more of them. You have this pavilion opening up in about a month's time. Do you have to make more hires for that as well?
Oh, certainly a very exciting project, Craig. I mean, it's been years in the making, over 300,000 new square feet of really state-of-the-art and well-designed space. The initial plan when we open in February is to take our existing services and move them into the new space, our critical care unit, our surgery department, our women's and children's center on the 4th and 5th floors. So the initial plan in February is to move our existing services over into the new space while we continue to hire. So I like to think that probably a year or to 14 months from now, we'll be able to have more staff as the volume increases to fill up the remaining space. But we want to make sure we're staffing to the current volume of patients that we have. And so there's nothing magical going to happen in February that's going to bring on a lot more patients, and so our focus is to move into the new space, get settled into that new space, provide great care to our existing patients. But as we continue to grow as an organization, continue to recruit staff to open up the full capability. One thing I'll say, and it struck me at being new to the organization and new to the community, the amount of philanthropic support that has been directed towards the pavilion. Almost $40 million of private community donations have gone towards the creation of that new space. And without that community support and really kind, generous contributions, it wouldn't have been possible to create the space that we're moving into in February. So I think it speaks again to the amount of care and compassion in this community around good quality health care. And I think the pavilion is a physical manifestation of that. But we're excited to move into it. It's going to be great for our caregivers, but even better for our patients seeking care.
Asante is one of the area's largest employers. How many employees do you currently have? And you can feel free to ballpark it. And how many openings do you have right now?
I would say around 6,000 people on the payroll, includes full-time and part-time staff. We have hundreds of open positions that we're recruiting for at any given time. I think that will continue. We're always looking for great clinicians, great people at the bedside. And as our world continues to evolve as an industry, some jobs come into the fore and some jobs perhaps are transitioning to other things. But there's always going to be a need for bedside care. And that's the focus of our recruitment right now.
Could you talk more about the pavilion? What does it mean to the organization to have something like this? I mean, roughly 6 months after your arrival, it's got to be an exciting time for you. What has you most excited about the pavilion?
Oh, I could probably speak all day, and we don't have time for that. But a couple of things I'll mention. One is the 4th and 5th floors are going to be the Alsrud Women's and Children's Hospital. Just fantastic space for mom and babies. As you know, we often have, unfortunately, some very sick babies. And so our neonatal intensive care unit, our NICU, will really be state of the art. And in that, we're going to have some opportunity for what is called couplet care. And simply stated, that's a chance for mom and baby to be together in a room together. That's a little unusual across the country for neonatal intensive care units to have that private space for mom and baby to be together. That's going to be available to us in the new pavilion. And so that Alsrud Women's and Children's Hospital is really going to be a showcase for women and pediatric care in this entire region. I will also say we're expanding critical care capabilities on the 3rd floor, so having more capability for critical care patients, and that's going to be important to this community as well. So really, I could speak about all the space, but those are the things that come to mind when I was first touring the facility during my interview process that really struck me as really being really just fantastic opportunities for the community to get state-of-the-art care.
Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll be right back.